Do not touch the beast. Jake Carter had seen a lot of weird things since joining the Interstellar research vessel Axiom. Multi-limbed engineers, psychic mushrooms in the hydroponics bay, and one crewmate who communicated only in rhythmic vibrations. But nothing compared to the beast in cargo hold 6. It was huge, 12 feet from snout to tail, armored in natural black plates, with fangs that looked like they'd taken bites out of battleships. The Kargath. Species designation, extremely hostile. Personal pet of Velrana of the Security Dominion. And apparently very, very dirty. Jake leaned against the doorway, wrinkling his nose. Ugh, that thing stinks like a wet dumpster left in a sauna. Snarble, the Kargath, apparently named after the sound it made when sneezing, lay coiled in the corner, half asleep, with dried ichor and grime crusting its hide. The creature had a bad habit of rolling through the exhaust vents after missions. No one dared clean it. No one even got close. Except Jake. He popped a valve connector into place on his mobile cleaning rig and gave the beast another once-over. You're basically just a giant dog with crab armor. How bad could this be? Snarble cracked one yellow. I opened, watched Jake approach, and let out a low, curious rumble. It didn't attack. That was all the permission Jake needed. Right then. Hold still, buddy. The next 10 minutes were a blur of industrial soap, water jets, and terrified crew members scuttling past the open hatch whispering prayers to at least 3 different gods. Jake scrubbed gently at first, but once he figured out Snarble liked it, based on the deep, gurgly purring, it turned into a full-on bath session. He even sang an old Earth tune while rinsing. That's it. Good boy. You'll be the cleanest apex predator in the sector. He was elbow-deep in suds when the door hissed open. What have you done? Jake turned around, blinking through the steam and bubbles. Standing there in full ceremonial armor, her 4-fingered hand clenched tight around the hilt of a decorative plasma blade, was Velrana herself. Her iridescent scales flared bright crimson. Her voice dropped into a subharmonic growl that made the bulkhead vibrate. Jake blinked. Oh, hey there, princess. Velrana did not respond to the casual greeting. Her jaw trembled with fury. You bathed my Kargath. Well, yeah, he was filthy. Probably uncomfortable, too. See? He likes it. Jake gestured to Snarble, who chose that exact moment to roll over in delight, foam coating his underbelly. The alien princess looked like she was about to vaporize the entire room. You dare lay hands upon the sacred battle beast of my lineage. Her voice trembled with restrained violence. You touched him? With bubbles. Jake raised his hand slowly. Hold on, I didn't mean anything by it. I didn't know it was sacred. I just thought he looked like he could use a good scrub. Velrana marched forward, armor clanking, her blade now glowing faintly. You insult my house. You disgrace the training of a warrior bond. You will answer for this. Jake took a cautious step back. I really think we're overreacting here. Look, he's not even mad. Honestly, I think he's smiling. Snarble made a wet, snorting noise and nudged Jake's leg affectionately with his giant snout. That didn't help. Velrana pointed her blade at Jake's chest. By SCA carry law, you have committed a grievous act of cultural desecration. You will meet me in the circle of challenge. At dusk, Jake blinked. Wait, what? Is that like a meeting room, or? It is an arena, human, she hissed, where you will answer in combat for your crime. Jake looked down at his soap-covered gloves, then at the overgrown alien lizard dog, still lolling on its back in glee. This feels like a misunderstanding. Velrana didn't answer. She turned on her heel and stormed out. Jake sighed and looked at Snarble, who wiggled happily in the foam. Well, bud, he muttered, either I just gave you the best bath in galactic history, or I'm about to die in the weirdest duel ever over shampoo. The trial of soap and blood. Jake Carter stood in the middle of the Axiom's training deck, adjusting his ill-fitting combat vest and wondering, not for the first time, how a bath led to an interspecies duel. The circle of challenge was less a room and more a coliseum carved into the ship's structural belly. High walls, shock-absorbent flooring, and a dozen hollow cameras transmitting the event shipwide. To Jake's dismay, the observation deck was packed with crew members. Apparently, Dueling a Seikiri warrior was the social event of the cycle. Jake glanced at the other side of the circle. Velrana stood tall and radiant in her dark blue combat armor, ceremonial sigils glowing across her chest and shoulders. Her blade pulsed with energy, and her eyes never left him. He raised a hand tentatively. "Still time to talk this out?" Her reply was a low snarl, only in the language of steel. Jake sighed. "Figures." The ship's AI chimed, voice crisp and emotionless. "Combat engagement begins in 10 seconds. No energy weapons beyond Class B. No lethal force unless mutually agreed. External interference will result in forfeiture." Jake muttered under his breath. "Great. I don't even own a Class B anything." He did, however, have a carbon fiber wrench and a multi-spanner. He hefted both like batons, then turned back to Velrana just as the signal flared green. She was already on him. Jake barely ducked under the first slash, the energy blade singing inches above his head. He rolled, scrambled, and put distance between them. Velrana was fast, too fast for a normal opponent, but Jake wasn't trying to win. He just needed to not die. He dodged, feinted, and threw every mechanic's trick he knew in a mix. Steam burst from floor vents, light flares from his tool belt, even a sudden spurt of soap foam from a modified cleaning pod. Velrana hissed and stumbled, blinking suds from her eyes. "You mock me even now?" "No, I just, look out for slippery floors." She came at him again, less elegant now, more furious. Jake ducked low, slid under her swipe, and scrambled behind a pillar. He was sweating bullets. Every nerve screamed for an escape, but something about her rage kept him rooted. This wasn't just about a pet. This was about pride and humiliation. He ducked another swing, then finally shouted, "Can you just stop for 5 seconds and listen?" She paused barely. "Speak, then. Make your final words count." Jake held up both hands. "Look, I didn't know it was sacred or off-limits. I saw a creature in pain, filthy, neglected, and miserable. No one was helping it. I thought I can do that. So I did." Velrana's snarl softened, just slightly. Jake continued, slower now. "Where I'm from, taking care of something, washing it, feeding it, that's a form of respect. A bond. I didn't defile your beast. I helped him, and I'd do it again." For a long moment, she was silent. Her blade remained raised, her posture ready, but her expression shifted from rage to something else. Confusion? Conflict? And then, interrupting the tension, came a happy glorp. Snarble lumbered into the arena, his black armor gleaming from the bath, still trailing a bit of foam behind his stubby tail. He made a pleased noise, patted over to Jake, and nudged him affectionately, nearly knocking him down. Velrana stared. "He followed you." Jake nodded, patting the beast's snout. "Yup, guess he likes being clean." Snarble flopped onto his back, presenting his belly with a hopeful wiggle. Jake chuckled. "You want belly scrubs right now?" "Seriously?" The Kargath purred like a fusion reactor on idle. Velrana's blade dipped slightly. Her breath came out slow. "This is unnatural. He obeys no one but me. No creature has ever made him submit without pain." Jake shrugged. Maybe he was just waiting for someone to be nice. A long silence followed. Then Velrana stepped back and deactivated her blade. She looked down at Snarble, then at Jake. The fury in her eyes had faded, but the tension hadn't. "This duel is unresolved," she said quietly, "but you have earned a pause. Not forgiveness." Jake exhaled in relief. "I'll take a pause." "Gladly." As the crew murmured in astonishment from above, Velrana turned and exited the arena. Snarble followed Jake out like an oversized puppy. And somewhere deep inside the ancient warrior traditions of the Seikiri, a footnote was being written about the first honor duel ended by soap and empathy, suds and subversion. Velrana sat alone in the observation chamber, arms crossed, watching Jake through the transparent floor panels. He was in the engineering bay, crouched beside a leaky filtration unit, whistling as he worked. Whistling. The same human noise he made while scrubbing her Kargath like it was a domesticated pet. She clenched her jaw. The Kargath, Snarble, lay nearby, clean, content, and dozing. It had followed Jake every day since the duel. Guards posted outside her quarters now found the beast curled at Jake's door instead. Her ancestral war beast, descendant of the SC Curry bloodlines, wagged its tail when Jake entered a room. Humiliating. Still watching the human? A voice asked from behind. Velrana turned slightly. It was Commander Trell, a serpentine diplomat from the Vatharia Accord, his voice as dry as his scales. The crew pool has you losing in the next duel, he added. There won't be another duel, she muttered. No. And here I thought you'd demand a rematch the moment he smiled at your pet again. Velrana didn't respond. She simply watched as Jake laughed, when a pipe burst and sprayed him in the face. He is undisciplined, she said at last. Untrained. Disrespectful. And yet, Trell said, your war beast sleeps at his feet. She turned away from the window. Jake hummed to himself as he reassembled the filter casing, fingers moving fast. Snarble's tail thumped rhythmically against the floor. Almost done, buddy, Jake said, tightening the last bolt. Then we'll go find some protein cubes and maybe... Human. Jake, startled, bonked his head on a beam and looked up. Velrana stood over him, arms behind her back. Her voice was calm, but something about her posture was stiff. Controlled. Hey, Jake said, rubbing his head. Didn't hear you come in. Your repair work is efficient, she said. Unrefined, but effective. Thanks. He stood slowly wary. No blades today. I did not come to fight, she replied. Jake relaxed. Good. Not that I mind, but these knees weren't built for weekly death matches. Velrana looked around the bay, then back at Snarble, who lifted his head and chirped happily at her. You tamed him, she said quietly. Jake glanced at Snarble. Nah, he's not tame. He's just happier. She narrowed her eyes. He responds to you. He obeys. Without fear. That is not our way. Jake frowned. Then maybe your way needs some tweaking. She flinched as if slapped. But instead of rage, a strange look crossed her face. Thoughtfulness, maybe even confusion. I was bonded to him at age 8, she said. My blood was mingled with his. I trained him with the lash and flame. I was told that love weakens the bond. Jake shook his head. Where I come from, love strengthens it. You don't need fear to earn loyalty. Silence stretched between them. Then, without a word, Velrana crouched beside Snarble. The beast rolled lazily toward her, but his eyes were on Jake. May I try? She asked. Jake blinked. Try what? Your technique. He handed her a scrub brush from his belt pouch, hesitating only a second. She took it delicately, then reached out to Snarble's side. At first, the creature tensed and used to this new touch, but then he let out a pleased trill and melted into the floor. Velrana's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. So, Jake said, grinning, what do you think? It is strange, she admitted, but not unpleasant. Jake crouched beside her. Welcome to Team Suds. She gave him a sidelong look. That is not a formal designation, I hope. It is now. They shared a moment of silence, working side by side, grooming a genetically engineered murder beast with gentle strokes. It was for both of them a bizarre form of peace. Then the ship trembled. An alert blared through the overhead speakers. Red alert. Unauthorized boarding. Hostiles in sections C through G. All crew prepare for contact. Velrana was on her feet in an instant, blade already igniting. Pirates, she spat. Jake grabbed his toolkit. Looks like bath time's over. Snarble growled, already moving toward the door. Velrana paused and looked back at Jake. You will join me? Jake gave her a wry smile. You bring the sword. I'll bring the wrench. She hesitated just a second, then nodded. For the beast, she said. For the team, he replied. And together, with a freshly scrubbed monster at their heels, they ran toward the fight. Blood bubbles and bond. The axiom shook again as plasma bolts hammered the outer hull. Sirens blared, and bulkheads sealed automatically behind the running figures of Velrana, Jake, and Snarble. Jake sprinted to keep up. You sure this is the fast route? I know my ship, Velrana snapped. Section G leads to primary power routing. If they take that, yeah, ship goes dark, we all die screaming. Got it. Snarble bounded ahead like a missile with paws, snarling deep in his throat. For once, Velrana didn't reprimand him. She didn't issue a command. The beast needed no prompting. He was ready. They rounded a corner just as the first wave of pirates appeared, sleek-bodied Yurkin scavengers in stolen armor, armed with stun lances and energy claws. Their leader hissed, saw Velrana and Snarble charging, and promptly made the worst tactical decision of his life. He stayed put. The first scream came half a second later. Snarble slammed into the front line with a roar that shook ceiling panels loose. Armor cracked. Bones splintered. A pirate flew into the wall and didn't get back up. The rest scattered. Some tried to fire, but Velrana was already in motion, blades spinning, slicing through weapons and limbs with terrifying precision. Jake, for his part, did what he could. He jammed his shock wrench into a panel, triggering an emergency bulkhead to drop behind the second wave of pirates. He flung his toolkit at another's face, then ducked low and tripped one with a steel cable. "Combat's just creative engineering," he muttered, "and maybe some well-timed dumb luck." One pirate raised a blaster toward Velrana's back. Jake saw it too late. Snarble didn't. The beast barreled across the hallway, body slamming the pirate into a wall hard enough to leave a dent. Velrana spun, eyes wide, then locked gazes with Jake. She nodded once. They moved together. By the time the fighting ended, Section G was littered with groaning bodies and scorch marks. Jake leaned against a wall, panting, while Velrana stood over the last conscious pirate. "You have one chance," she growled. "Flee, or feed my Cardiff." The pirate fled. Jake slid down the wall to sit beside Snarble, who plopped next to him like an enormous dog. "Not bad, buddy. Not bad at all." Velrana approached, blade deactivated. "You fought with honor," she said. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Did I? I think I mostly flailed and tripped people." "You fought," she said firmly. "For the ship. For the beast. For us. That matters." Jake blinked. "Us." She folded her arms, but didn't deny it. "You are difficult, undisciplined, but effective, and kind." He grinned. "You say it like that's a flaw." "It is not a flaw." She sat beside him, a strange quiet settling between them. "I did not understand what you did. With the bathing. With the creature." "Snarble," Jake said. "He's got a name." Velrana gave him a pointed look. "My creature." He raised his hands in mock surrender. She looked down at the beast, who was now resting his head on Jake's knee. "I thought strength came from domination, that he obeyed me because I commanded him. You showed me otherwise." Jake shrugged. "Sometimes strength comes from care, from showing something it's safe to trust you." Velrana turned toward him. "You changed him." "No," Jake said softly. "You did. You let him be something more than a weapon." Silence again. Then, unexpectedly, Velrana reached out. She placed her palm gently on Snarble's side, not in command, not as a master, but as a companion. The beast rumbled in pleasure. She smiled, just barely. Jake stood, stretching. "So, think this counts as saving the ship?" She rose with him. "It will be difficult to report. Our people do not often credit battles won by soap and improvisation." Jake laughed. "Then we rewrite the manual." Chapter 1. Don't underestimate a good scrub. Velrana's smile deepened. Snarble yawned and flopped onto his back, already waiting for his next bath. Jake glanced at her. "So, do I still owe you a duel?" She considered. "No, you owe me a lesson." He blinked. "In what?" "In how to use bubbles," she said, dead serious. "Properly." Jake chuckled. "Deal." And there, in the scorched and battered corridors of a ship that had just been saved by muscle, metal, and maybe a little kindness, a strange new alliance began between a warrior, a human, and the beast they both now called friend.